Dan Lennington works for the Equality Under the Law Project, Deputy Counsel for the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Dan Lennington, thank you so much for taking the time out to tell us about this important lawsuit.
Great. Thanks to be on your show, Dawn. It's great to hear you.
Absolutely. So tell us about, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about, just so we feel like we know Mr. Bruckner, Christian Bruckner. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yes, so Christian lives in Tampa. He has a federal contracting business. He provides services primarily to the Department of Defense, but he is really an expert in acquisitions and procurement for the government. He works on projects including landscaping and mowing contracts. He basically is a jack of all trades, and he provides services to the government, as a lot of contractors do down in Florida. And he owns his own business. He is disabled. He got in a car wreck when he was in high school. It prevented him from going to college. He can't use his right hand. Has a bad back, and so he started this business as sort of a way that he could continue his family business, but not really have a physical toll on him. He is an immigrant from Romania, and his parents brought him here as a place, where he could have constitutional rights and he could have freedom of speech and equality under the law. That the regime that he fled was very oppressive, but now he's facing discrimination because he's a white male. And the new projects coming out of the Biden administration, Biden wants to build back better, but apparently he doesn't want every small business to be able to help in that endeavor.
And so, Dan Lennington, as we talk to you as an attorney who's representing Mr. Bruckner, in other words, and nobody's saying here that somebody should get special treatment. So despite being a person with disabilities, Christian Bruckner is saying, hey, despite these disabilities, I've done the work, I do the work, I have 2 decades of experience, and Bruckner just wants, if what I'm reading is right, in other words, he just wants the opportunity to apply for the job. Is that, so he's not allowed to even apply for the job? Right.
He cannot apply. So if your listeners will remember, President Biden had a couple big signature legislative accomplishments last year. One of them was what was called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, or the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which was $1.2 trillion that we were going to use to sort of rebuild the infrastructure in America. And about a third of that money was supposed to go to roads, bridges, and highways. But when Congress wrote the law, and the Biden administration was integral in that, they included a set-aside that said that 10% of all the money that's spent on roads, bridges, and infrastructure projects has to be given to small businesses that are owned by certain minorities and women. And that if you're not on the list of minorities, and by the way, it's not all minorities, it's only certain preferred minority groups get this preference. And if you're not a woman-owned business, then you can't get the money. You can't be a small business that's going to participate in the rebuilding of American infrastructure. And that's race discrimination, that's gender discrimination, and our Constitution requires the government to treat everybody as individuals and not as members of racial groups. So race discrimination by the government is unconstitutional in America, and you can't have preferences or set-asides for certain racial groups. And that's really the basis of this lawsuit.
And so, what if he were, so even though he's a person with a disability, he's a cisgender male, I guess it's called. So what if he were, unbinary or a different spectrum of the binary? Would the gender situation help him out here? Or is that part of it, that he's a cisgender male and a white male? Is that all wrapped up into this?
Yeah, I said he's a white male is the problem. And we've seen this before. So where I work, the Equality Under the Law Project at the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, we've represented now 42 different individuals and businesses from around the country, 17 states. We've represented restaurants in York, Pennsylvania, for example, and we've sued Comcast, which is a big Pennsylvania company. Yeah. But we have these individuals who we've represented have been successful in lawsuits so far. So, for example, we represented a number of farmers who were supposed to get loan forgiveness from the Biden administration, but they couldn't because they were white farmers. And we successfully sued in court and won that case. And we have also represented restaurant owners who were supposed to get COVID relief, but if they were restaurants owned by white males, they did not get the COVID relief. And so that was part of what's called the American Rescue Plan from back in 2021 that the Biden administration put forth. So this is a big deal since 2021 that the government and woke corporations are giving preferences and special treatments and set aside to small businesses that fall into certain categories. And sometimes it's they want to support women-owned business, or they want to support certain minorities, but not other minorities. And so what we have done at this project is we have been very successful in putting forth the theory in court that everybody should be treated equally in America, that you should not be discriminated based on the color of your skin or what type of gender you are. You should be treated on whether you could do the work. And Christian Bruckner can do the work. He can help with the infrastructure projects that are available for him down in Florida, but he's ineligible, and he's ineligible solely because of the color of his skin and because he's not a woman.
It's amazing. And so if he identified as a woman, then he probably would, if he identified as a woman, he probably then would be able to apply for the job.
Yes, yeah, I think that is absolutely true. The Biden administration, they believe that there's not enough women-owned construction companies in America, apparently, and they believe that it's because of some sort of discrimination against women in the past that we don't have women-owned construction companies. Not that there's any difference in preferences that men and women have, and differences that men and women have in what their pursuits are, but that we need to have, apparently we need to have 50% construction companies must be owned by women and 50% must be owned by men. And if we don't have those ratios laid out perfectly, it's evidence of some sort of discrimination. So we have to give preferences to women-owned construction companies until it gets to 50%. I don't, I'm not sure that that's the way we should run policy in this country. I think we should just give contracts in business to small businesses that can do the job, not based on who their owner is.
Yeah, I think, truthfully, Dan, we see over and over policies that maybe sound good in the headlines and sound good for certain, career politicians, but ultimately none of us as Americans should suffer. In other words, be denied equality to bring somebody else's up and, make a headline good for politicians. So I'm a woman in the workplace, so I appreciate educational opportunities, but I certainly don't want as an American for somebody else to be discriminated against. So then it would prop me up in any job. I would never want that. So I thank you, and we thank you for fighting for that.